And again, now Bitcoin is up nearly 44%. And from when my signals correctly called the day of the bottom, you can see that here. And again, I had several signals that did it, that call the correct day of the bottom. We warned about the push down here below Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average and horizontal support. And I told you 74,000 would likely be a bottom, or we dip below it, a little bit below it, and then get right back above it. Again, a bounce here is extremely bullish. We did not take it out. 74,000 held. And we eventually saw the trend signals all flip back to bullish. We broke out of the bullish bull flag pattern right here. And that's played out very, very nicely. But my signals, since we've called correctly, they called the day of the bottom, we've now risen nearly 44%. And again, watching for that lower high or higher high scenario. Again, told you we'd come back and get a massive rally. I was correct. My signals still remain bullish, so we can still continue higher. At some point, we're going to get a pullback, probably to the 50 and the 200 period and the 100 period moving average, as I'm talking about in this video and I've been talking about. Bitcoin's going to get an even bigger move than this 44% rally. Now, if we go above the 109,000 high, and we very well could, we may see, again, a fake above that area and then get the pullback. And I've talked about both of those scenarios, the lower high scenario, the higher high scenario. But at some point, we're going to get a pullback. What absolutely incredible signals. And again, calling the tops over here, calling the bottom. Again, just looking at momentum, shifts in momentum. Sometimes those shifts in momentum mark bottoms and tops. Absolutely amazing. So what I'll be looking for is if we do push up to a new high, a new all-time high, do we start seeing, or a lower high, do we start seeing another sell signal here? We don't always get it. More often than not, you do it. It shows price exhaustion of a shift in momentum is coming. Absolutely incredible signals here for the pullback. We'll be watching to see if we get another one. Absolutely nailed the very day of the bottom. Got a warning sign here of some volatility. That was correct. Again, when those are still bullish, you still have green bars, you still have a green cloud here. They try to move to a new all-time high. To go, it's a breakout, and they'll buy the top as they always do, and then we'll pull back, and then the real opportunity, the next big opportunity will be at the next big pullback for Bitcoin, which I believe will be wave 2, or minor wave 2. But the herd, they absolutely love to buy tops and so bottoms. I mean, that's what they do. Let's let them do it if we get a breakout. But again, I'll be selling into the rally. They can buy my position if they want. I'll be looking for the next opportunity on the pullback. But they absolutely love to buy tops. Be surprised to move to a new high and get a fake out, a head fake above the January peak. What happens? They're going to get super bullish. Here we go! And then you get this massive pullback. End up dropping below 100,000, they get all depressed. But here, again, calling the bottom correctly here at the 109, or the second peak there, the higher low, 74,000 area. We're still positive here, so again, we might see this larger divergence develop here before all is said and done. So don't rule out that we don't go to a new all-time high. Very well could be. So be watching. Again, the next level would be the 110 to 113,000 area. Now we're attempting to recover from the sell-off as I'm making the video. No signals here yet. Watching for clues. Yeah, my signals remain bullish. Warned about the sell-off here. Got the bullish signal right there before the move happened. Excellent signals. Why I'm saying we might push to new highs, we might try to go above the upper Bollinger Band. Over here we got above the upper Bollinger Band and it gave us the sideways correction. Same thing back over here. We may reach that upper Bollinger Band and move above 109,000. If you do, then again, I'd be watching the 110 to 113,000 area or so. But if we attempt to rebound, if we move above that 109,000 area, again, we could try to close above the upper Bollinger Band, and that could mark a peak for Bitcoin. Again, signals, look at this. We marked the bottom here, the very day of the bottom. Bullish signal there on April 7th. Shortly thereafter, we saw momentum signals turn back to bullish, and then we saw the trend signals here. to bullish. Look at that in the consolidation before the big move happened. Absolutely incredible, but signals remain bullish. Today's sell-off, it's not changing my signals. So again, I think we're still going to get this pop to higher levels. Again, it could reach the upper boundary of the rising wedge that I'm talking about in this video and my last video. If we attempt to close to a new high and reach the upper boundary of the Bollinger Band. So just something worth paying attention to, but absolutely incredible signals here. Again, calling tops, calling the bottom, looking to see if we get another topping signal. We don't have to get it. Oftentimes, signals show up when there's price exhaustion. See how we close the session out with Bitcoin today. Just got a smaller pop higher. You could still have a hanging man and get a pullback, but it could be a bottoming tail. We could continue. We're trying to rally. Now we're down less than 1% after having dropped more than 3% at the lows. Again, the pop and drop I expected, but I don't think it's done yet. I could be wrong if you end up with the hanging man candlestick. Absolutely incredible signals here. Still got blue bars. The volatility today, still think we go higher, and we very well could see a new high on Bitcoin to get a head fake breakout to trap the herd one more time as we fall back at the December and the January highs. And beautiful signals, again, calling the very day of the bottom here, the bottom and the reversal, and then we got another one as we tested the low on the 9th, so the 7th and 9th, we got those bottoming signals and reversal bars. Reversal bars black, and then right after that we had the blue turn with the trend changing, the momentum changing, the line went from red to blue. Almost just nailed the bottom at Bitcoin's average price. We had the rally back up. We have a possible reversal here, never confirmed. Same thing over here. We got the reversal bar, it was never confirmed. We got a confirmation, but no follow through, I should say. But it was correct in that we got volatility with Bitcoin. So now, again, do we get a hanging man and that's it, or do we have a bottoming tail? Could change by the time we close, or several hours before we close, but do we go a little higher? My guess is we still go higher, and we very well could make a new all-time high and then get a head fake to trick the herd one more time before getting a bigger pullback. Actually, you're going to pull back towards the moving averages. Maybe we get the bullish cross, and that marks the top, as I've talked about in this video, something worth paying attention to. Like the indicators, if you like the charts, let me know that by supporting the channel. Sponsors, I turn those offers down, but I ask that you partner with me and support the channel. Most YouTube channels make their money by sponsors. I don't choose to do that. I don't want to just sell you a bunch of stuff you don't need. If you like the charts, you like my indicators, let me know that. It takes a lot of time and effort to do this. I know you want me to do this rather than go golf. Anything helps. Just take a moment and support the channel. If you do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. Get a recurring donation. If you do that, I thank you. Absolutely incredible signals. We're just doing so well, buying the fear, and very soon I'll be selling the greed. Absolutely incredible. But the signals just absolutely nailing the bottom. The trend changed. Trend signals are still bullish at this time. So Bitcoin very well may attempt to make a new high, get a head fake, a false breakout before pulling back. Certainly possible. Even with the volatility today, which is quickly going away, we're down less than 1% at the moment. Momentum line's still bullish. So again, had some volatility, some warning signs here, but it only produced a sideways correction, much like what we had back over here. After the bottoming signals, momentum turned back to bullish. We saw the trend signals turn back to bullish, and we had this massive move. The signals absolutely nailed it. The bottoming signals, we saw momentum flip back to bullish, and then we saw these trend signals began to turn back to bullish for the breakout. And again, nearly a 44% move higher. Still could go to new highs. What absolutely incredible signals. Okay, we had the Moody's downgrade on Friday. Bitcoin pretty much ignored it over the weekend. Actually popped up to a new high on Sunday, rally of over 3%, and then pull back, giving back that rally. We had this knee-jerk reaction. The S&P 500 and the stock market, Bitcoin, are recovering. So I'll show you some of the charts, show you what I'm thinking. see what you think about those charts. I talked about a pop and a drop, and I told you, again, when Bitcoin reacted to the Moody's downgrade previously, it got a little tiny pop and then a bigger drop. Market gap down, and it kept going. This was the Fitch downgrade back in August 1st, 2023. I talked about that in my last video if you want to actually see the chart. I'm not going to go through it this time. Talked about coming up here into this area right here, which we did do. We're going a little bit beyond that, but I've also talked about not only the lower high scenario here, but also busting through this area, busting up through 109,000, and then getting the pullback, getting a false breakout, what's called a head fake in technical analysis. A head fake is where you get a breakout of an area, a breakout, and then you turn right back down. That's called a head fake. And I still think, again, we're going to get a pullback, and I do believe we're going to see the 50 get back above the 200, and that marks the peak. Again, the death cross right here marked the bottom. Maybe that marks the peak before we get the bigger pullback, or again, it could start ahead of that bullish cross, but could be we get the bullish cross and that marks the top, and maybe we do go not getting a lower high but a higher high, and I've talked about both of those scenarios. So again, we called a double bottom correctly. My signals nailed it, and we had this little miniature double bottom on this April 7th and April 9th, but we had this double bottom, and here's the confirmation line. And again, it's very possible we set up a lower high and pull back, or get a higher high and pull back and move towards the 50-period moving average and the 200 there, even as they get a bullish cross. But the signals, we've now risen sharply, and I'll have the percentage move for you in just a moment, off of the lows here from Bitcoin's average price, the 74,000 area, which again, I told you when we were selling off, not when we were rallying back up, but when we were selling off, when we were declining, my signals were forming bullish signals on the 7th and the 9th, and even on the 8th, I got a couple before the rally ever started. Even before the rally on the 9th, my signals were forming these bullish signals, and I told you about the ones forming. We eventually broke the downward trend line. We broke up through the double bottom confirmation line. And again, this is an important level because this was a January low. And here we tried to get above it. It failed. Then we got rejection at it. And here we got back above it, back above the 200 period. So these levels, the 50, the 200, and this horizontal support area, or really the support zone marked here in blue, this is area of interest where we might pull back. Maybe we don't pull back that far. Maybe we only go down into this area or into this area here and get a more shallow retracement. Certainly possible. That would be probably something closer to 38.2 Fibonacci if we pull back. But whether we go higher and get a slightly higher high or a lower high, again, at some point you're going to pull back, and I think it's likely going to be towards these moving averages, towards a 100 period, because I'm a big believer in the 100 period moving average. I bring it up for you. It is just underneath that 50 and 200 period moving average. That's a pink line right here. Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. If you follow my work, you know that again, I talk about how Bitcoin follows the 100 period in the daily. It follows the 20-week in the weekly time frame. It follows the 10-month moving average in the monthly time frame. Dipped below that 10-month moving average and rebounded back above it sharply. So again, I do believe we're going higher. I think we're forming this wave 1. It still may not be done yet, and then I think we get a pullback for 2, and then it's going to get good, because then you're going to get the parabolic wave 3, and that's where big money is going to be made. This move has just been spectacular. The wave 3 is going to be even better. You can even imagine that. We'll see what happens. Right now, Bitcoin is down 1.70%. It was down over 3% at the lows. Again, we had this bar right here where we popped and we broke out of the triangle formation, and we were up 3.26% on Sunday there, and then we pulled back, gave all that rally back, and then now trying to move off of the lows. We were down over 3% at the lows, that entire rally back. So we'll be watching, can we continue onward and upward? Again, we're hitting the next level of resistance that I've talked about, this 107,000 area. If you clear that, then you got the peak over here at 108, 109, and if we can clear that, then again, you might go higher, as I've said, 110 to 113,000 or something like that if the rally can't continue before pulling back, make a new high. That is certainly possible and something we've talked about at great length and detail. Regardless of whether a lower high or a higher high, I do expect we will pull back to the 50 and the 200 period moving average at some point, then lower to the 100 period moving average. Talked about the Elliott wave count and this rising wedge. This is the IBIT ETF. I told you that if we can continue the rally, Bitcoin try to make new highs, which it did do, that Sunday rally, 107,000, I told you we could come up here. We moved above the 105,000 area, which is, again, the level I predicted on Bitcoin back at the bottom, moving above 100,000 to 101 to 105,000 range. I have revised that and told you I thought we'd still go higher because my signals, which are correct, will still remain bullish. This is what I'm looking at with IBIT, exposure to Bitcoin directly with Bitcoin future contracts and with IBIT. This is an instrument that I'm using as well. Talked about possibly getting a final push higher up into this rising wedge and then getting this ABC correction. And again, it could be much less than what I have marked here. I'm just marking a move back towards the confirmation line of our double bottom pattern. Could be more of a shallow retracement. It could be deeper. We can get a deeper 61.8 fib or 78.6 Fibonacci. No. As traders, all we could do is look at support levels with our Fibonacci's and other things like horizontal support. This is what I still think has a pretty good shot of happening. Again, if we start losing, we're bouncing off the 50, we slightly breached the trend line there, just ever so slightly got a hollow candlestick here in the 60-minute time frame and pushed higher. If we break this area, then maybe that's it. We did push slightly higher. We push on higher. Again, this is where I think price would likely stall out, is at this trend line. Sometimes a rising wedge, you can get an overthrow move. That's very common with rising wedges. So again, if Bitcoin continue the momentum, and we do see it move to a new all-time high, 110,000 to 113,000 or so, then again, we could see a push here to this upper boundary of the rising wedge. I think you have intermediate wave 4 here. I think we're getting our first minor wave of intermediate wave 5, and then I think we'll get wave 2. And third, they're getting very, very bullish now. They get very bullish at tops. They get very bearish at bottoms. I'm already starting to get attached for saying we're going to get a pop and then a drop. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, sure, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why my signals call the very day of the bottom and this massive 40+% rally that we've just had. I'm level-headed. I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes, up or down. I trade it back and forth. Heard they believe Bitcoin goes up and never goes down, and that's why they get so emotional, so depressed when Bitcoin goes down. Again, nailed the bottom, nailed the rally. At some point, I think it's going to come to a conclusion, and I'm going to sell my position. Now, if we just start breaking this area in the 50 period and I start seeing evidence of that's it, then maybe that's all she wrote. But I have the guts to tell you what I think, just like I had the guts to tell you, hey, a bottom's developing on the 7th and the 9th, about to get this massive rally back up. Correct. Just to tell you what I think. Okay, we're going to go to that 101, 105,000 area. And then we revised that and said, okay, we're going to likely get this final pop and drop. Trader, I look at support and resistance levels. But I'm telling you, if Bitcoin does move to a new high, and it very well could, you might see a test of this upper boundary right here. So this is the IBIT ETF. And again, we have a divergence. We had a smaller divergence is back over here. We could see this larger one complete. Maybe it's done with this little tiny move. My guess is it's not. I still think we go higher. We'll see what happens. And we could see the MACD even go back up higher and again, get this larger divergence developing. I think that's very likely. But if we start breaking down, we'll need to see evidence that Bitcoin's starting to reverse if the move is in fact done. I think we're completing minor wave 1, then we'll get minor wave 2, and it could be, again, a whole lot less than what I have here. It could be more. We'll have to look at that when we finally peak. We'll have to look. But if we do move to a new high, watch the 110 to 113,000 area or so. IBIT's up just under 1%. Same thing here with Bitcoin. Again, we have this rising wedge. This is the Bitcoin 4-hour chart. Here's our double bottom confirmation line. Again, if we push on up into the upper boundary of the rising wedge, or maybe even overthrow it, which is very common with rising wedge patterns, again, you could go to a new all-time high. Certainly possible. And again, get this multiple point divergence, as I've talked about. We do have it. We did push higher to 107,000, and we do have it right here with that. And if that's it, then we need to break down below the 50. We're trying to bounce off of it. We need to break the cloud. We're trying to bounce off of it. These signals start turning back to bearish. We need to see momentum flip it back to bearish. So my guess is we're still going to likely push up here. I could be completely wrong on that, but again, have the guts to tell you what I think. Again, my signal's correctly called the bottom here, this larger double bottom pattern, smaller double bottom pattern here, and this rally. If we can gather the momentum to go a little bit higher, I think Bitcoin then will get that larger pullback. We'll see how it unfolds. You got the possibility of that larger diversion still developing on the RSI here in this 4-hour time frame, and over here on our 60-minute chart. Again, we're trying to firm up around the center line. If we can turn back up, again, you can end up seeing this larger divergence develop, building upon the divergences previously over here and over here. You can build upon that towards the upper trend line of the rising wedge. So we'll see what happens. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think that, again, we're about to complete minor wave one, and we very well could see Bitcoin move up above 109,000, the January high. And he goes, it's a breakout, it's a breakout. And it ends up being a fake out, and you get this pullback. Now, if we get this pullback, you have an interesting pattern in the daily time frame. And let me show you that. So keep this in your mind. This move up here and this pullback right here is speculation. But if it does end up happening, we could end up forming a massive inverse head and shoulders pattern. And again, here we have a little divergence now completing with Sunday's rally and then giving it back. We got Sunday's rally. We went a little bit higher for the Monday session, and then we sold off, gave all the rally back. Now we're trying to recover. We're down about 1.5% as I'm making the video, with a little less than 5 hours of the trading session left for Bitcoin. The diversion's done, and that's it right now here with the lower high at 107. And we just had a little tiny pop breaking out of the triangle, and that's it. Or do we continue on? And I've drawn the scenario here that, okay, we come up to a slightly higher high, or maybe a much higher high, going towards 113,000 or something. But if we just pop a little bit above here, you still have a neckline for an inverse head and shoulders. It would just be slanted, but you've got a potential left shoulder over here. That was our January, or our December and January peaks, and then the low here in January for the left shoulder. You have this move down here, the sell-off being the head formation, and that was our double bottom pattern down here. And then we could see a pullback, and maybe we don't go this deep. Maybe maybe it's not as deep. Maybe it is, but then you can form a right shoulder for our wave two. Now here, if we exclude the shadows, right here and right here, then we have this kind of area. We don't reach the confirmation line. And we could just be above that area, or we could just go beyond it and hit that January low, and that's where our confirmation line for the double bottom is. So again, pretty interesting. Our double bottom could be evolving into a larger inverse head and shoulders pattern if we get the pullback that I'm looking for, either with a lower high or a slightly higher high. I think it's going to happen. I think Bitcoin is going to explode higher going into the summer, and that's when I think you're going to get the FOMO rally, the fear of missing out. Boom, we're just going to go. Again, I told you I think Bitcoin's going to the 150 to 175,000 area or so, and that could be adjusted higher or lower depending on how quick we reach my objective target, which is my weekly trend line. I wanted to share this with you because it's something I've been watching, waiting to show you until we got this, push higher. But I told you if we get a lower high or higher high, I think we get a pullback. If we do, I think it's going to end up being a right shoulder. Now, what's interesting is the pattern measurement from the low to our high over here, and we still may go higher. But currently, it's about 35,000 or so, give or take. Take us to the 144,000, 145,000 area. Again, close to my 150,000 target. Above that, 175,000. So again, I'll be watching to see if we complete a pullback with a lower high or a slightly higher high or maybe a bigger higher high, you'd still have this pattern very, very much in play. And if we go higher, then maybe you don't get as big a pullback. Well, another thing I'm watching is the trend line from the high here and the high right here. That might be pointing to the next high, and that could take us to a new all-time high. So just food for thought. Again, I remain extremely bullish on Bitcoin. Telling you, we're going to have this pop and drop. We're going to get one more pullback. The institutions and the BlackRocks and the whales of the world, they want another bite of the apple. Accumulate larger positions with Bitcoin. So at some point, they're going to push it back down. Herd and the moon boys will get so depressed and all the despair, just like they did at these bottoms down here, when again, these are opportunities. But that's what the herd does. Go higher, again, the BlackRocks of the world and the whales, they're going to be selling into the rally that I'm talking about. Get to the top, the moon boys, the herd, they're going to be going, rally's just getting started. And Bitcoin will begin to price in the recession and have a wrecking ball taken to it. I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin now, but when we reach my objective target, I'm going to get extremely bearish. I think the top will be in at the trend lines that I've been talking about with our channel in the weekly time frame. An inverse head and shoulders, and if we start pulling back, the people that are telling us that, oh, there's no way we're going to pull back, there's no way we're going to sell off, and again, I think you're going to end up dropping back below 100,000, and the people that are telling us that now, they're going to be screaming what I'm telling you in advance is likely setting up, and that is an inverse head and shoulders. They don't believe Bitcoin goes down, they only believe it goes up. They get so depressed, actually drops. So again, I do think that this is a very, very likely scenario. But again, very, very good chance Bitcoin does end up going to a new high. My signals are still bullish. What an absolutely amazing rally that we've had after my signals correctly called the very day of the bottom. Predicted this rally would happen. So keep your eye on these moving averages and the cloud and things like that. But again, I think this inverse head and shoulders is likely going to set up. By the way, if we do pop to a new high, 110, 111, 113,000, something like that, then the target for Bitcoin would not be $35,000 from the breakout point. It would be the 109,000 peak. It would be even higher. From whatever high is reached right here to this low down here, that would be the measurement of the pattern. So if we do break out, then that means Bitcoin be all that much closer to my 150,000 target level or end of my target level. Just eyeballing the trend line that I've been talking to you about in the weekly time frame. Again, Bitcoin bounced off the 50-week moving average here. I have the 50-week SMA and the EMA here. We bounced off those levels. We bounced off horizontal support. You see the horizontal support. This high over here became support, just like over here. This high over here became support. This high over here became support. And we bounced. I told you that support had better not break. That would be bearish. Bouncing off of it, I told you it's extremely bullish. We broke out of the bull flag. My trend line moved on me, but you can see the bull flag here. This trend line, these charts are great, but sometimes you hit save on the trend line and they move on you. They have a mind of their own. So again, I think you're going to end up setting up this larger divergence over the summer months. I think you'll probably pull back, and then the rally will continue much higher, but eventually, for the summer or the fall, Bitcoin will peak, but at much higher levels. I remain extremely bullish, bouncing off these levels of support. This is where the bears told us we were going to crash. I told you we were going to bottom. I remain extremely bullish.